Well, good evening and welcome into a Friday edition of KC Sports Tonight. I am Mark Poulose, joined by Gabe Swartz, and we have quite the weekend to look forward to here in the realm of KC Sports. And we're going to start our conversation today with the Kansas City Royals. They have a 3-game set at another good team, taking on the Minnesota Twins up there at Target Field. Some big news breaking with the Royals today, where they designated Hunter Renfroe for assignment. This was a guy that they brought to Kansas City last year with a lot of expectations. They signed him to a 2-year deal, and they paid him significant money. I think this year he's earning $7.5 million, but through the first 35 games of the season, he had 18 hits. He was batting .182. He had a negative 1.5 wins above replacement, which was tied for the worst in Major League Baseball. So, Gabe, it seems a little bit today the Royals may have had some addition by subtraction. What was your reaction to this move? Do you think it took too long, or was this about when you thought it was going to happen, just based on his play?
Yeah, I think that they probably – it's not something that they wanted to do. It's not something that a team like the Royals is in the position to be able to do frequently, is just cut bait with a guy who they're having to pay $7.5 million to go away. That's not something that a small market team like the Royals is willing to do, even though or typically willing to do, because John Sharman actually has kind of ponied up and paid a lot more for this roster than previous ownership has, and previous years have looked like for the roster. It's one of the more expensive Royals rosters ever. I would say that the process of the free agency class that the Royals signed prior to last season, trying to get older, trying to insert some veteran leadership into the clubhouse. They signed Michael Wacha, they signed Seth Lugo, they signed Hunter Renfroe, Adam Frazier, Chris Stratton. Some of them worked really well, and some of them have not worked at all, and there really hasn't been much in between. I think Renfroe was probably the most in between, where you'd say, you know what, signing Wacha, signing Lugo, those were home runs. Signing Stratton and signing Adam Frazier, those were complete whiffs. And Renfroe was largely productive last season, but this year it just was not working out. And so I think, given what we've seen in AAA, last year you had a really good season for Drew Waters. He came up, he wasn't super productive. This year he's come back up and he looks like a different guy. He looks like a guy who's more accustomed to major league pitching and major league production, and he's actually now, I would argue, a really valuable player for the Royals, given what he's provided in the 8th spot of the lineup. Nick Loftin now is kind of in a similar spot. I don't think that he's ever been looked at as the type of prospect that Drew Waters was at one point. But I think the hope, if you're a Royals fan, is that Nick Loftin comes up and in his second, more extended period of time, where he maybe knows, hey, my opportunity for playing time and my opportunity for a role in this team is greater, because I'm replacing someone who is not just injured. I'm replacing someone who was cut for lack of performance. Hopefully he's able to take that and run with it.
Yeah, just as Gabe mentioned there, Nick Loftin was the player called up from AAA in a corresponding roster move. Nick Loftin has been playing well at AAA this year. I have his stats here. He's batting .295, 4 homers, 24 RBI, 12 stolen bases out there at Omaha. Now he comes to Kansas City in a reserve role. Hopefully can provide a spark for the Royals off the bench. But I really think the Royals, they provided Hunter Renfroe about as long of a runway as they could have given him. And we know why they kept him here on the roster for so long. He was a major league veteran. He's hit 20 homers 6 times. Last year, as Gabe said, he was partially productive. But this year, the results on the field were not there. And then as we saw, the Royals this year aren't really they're in it to win it. They are not afraid to cut guys. Last week they cut Chris Stratton, or maybe that was this week, but they cut him. He's getting $4.5 million as a relief pitcher. Today they DFA Hunter Renfroe, do $7.5 million. These are moves where the Royals have been like, you know what, we signed these guys, we really hope that it would work, and it's not working out. So we're just going to cut our losses. Hopefully those guys land on their feet somewhere else, and they're going in a different direction. So for me, this is a big point of hope for Royals fans, because they're no longer running out a guy that's one of the worst players in everyday baseball out there every day. They're trying to take moves to improve the roster. I think maybe with Hunter Renfroe playing as much as he was, we did see his playing time dwindle in recent days. I thought maybe the Royals were 84, 85 win team. Now, getting rid of him, I believe, this opens up a spot maybe for them to get a trade bat for Jack Caglione to maybe come up. And maybe now the Royals are an 88, 89 win team. If they add Caglione, they add a trade, another bat offensively, things could really be looking up here for the Royals. But Gabe, that kind of brings us to our next topic of conversation here, staying with the Royals. But last night, Jack Caglione, the Royals' top prospect, hitting his first home run there for the Omaha Storm Chasers. It was a line drive, 114 miles per hour off the bat. Went 410 feet, and actually a very interesting note about this. He hit the home run off a pitcher named Dakota Hudson, who's incidentally the exact same pitcher that Bobby Witt Jr. hit his first major league home run off of. So this guy, it's not like he's just some AAA bottom feeder. This is a guy who has been a major league pitcher before. Obviously right now he's in AAA, not in the big leagues. But Gabe, I know the Royals have not put a timeline on Cags to get to the big leagues, but with Renfroe getting DFA'd today, it kind of seems like there is now a pathway for Caglione to get to the big league roster and to have a spot to play. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that what we're going to see is probably a similar time frame, maybe a little faster than AA, where they wanted to get themselves into a spot earlier in this year where you give Cags 100+ at bats in AA, and I think he got to like 120 at bats in AA. And that kind of seems like the ballpark they want to be in for making decisions about hitters, because Hunter Renfroe had, I think, 95 at-bats and well over 100 plate appearances when you factor in a couple walks and such. So when you get to that, I guess, level of sample size, it kind of gives the club an ability to totally evaluate things. And I think that they also had the data of last season in which Renfroe slumped for several stretches of time as well. So, yeah, I think that the first 3 games that he's played in Salt Lake City for the Storm Chasers has been really good this week. He's gotten a hit in every single game. He's had a multi-hit game one of the nights. He hit a home run one of the nights.
I think he had an infield hit.
He had an infield single, yeah, which I'm sure that he'll always remember that first AAA hit that in a career where he'll probably make the majority of his money hitting balls 380 or 400 feet plus. His first AAA hit came on a ball where he hit it no more than 50 feet on the ground. So I
might
think
be generous.
Yeah, that might be generous as well. I think it's really encouraging just how hard he hits the ball. You mentioned it on the show, I think it was either last week or 2 weeks ago, that by the metrics, if Jack Caglione was in the major leagues, he would be hitting the ball only, I think it was 3 miles per hour below
like the fastest
like
ever.
Shohei, like the fastest exit velocities that Shohei Ohtani's put up, Giancarlo Stanton's put up. These are guys that crush the ball, and so I think that he is on the fast track, and the Royals fans who want to see him here right now need to know that the Royals are not slow playing this. They are moving him up the chain about as quickly as you're going to see for a guy who was drafted literally last July, and he is passing all the tests, and he just needs to develop, I guess, the timing. And yesterday, the home run in particular, it's not like he was bailing himself out of a poor count. He was up 3-0 in the count, and that to me tells you what they think about him. Is that in his 3rd game in AAA, they're already green-lighting him to swing on 3-0. So I think it's really encouraging. I think that give him a month. Give him a month, and let's see him continue to crush AAA pitching. But AAA pitching is not Major League pitching. So we will see what it looks like. And as you mentioned, I think as much as the Renfroe move changes things in Kansas City, you would hope that the production level ups, and that it is not, oh, okay, they're moving Renfroe to set up the Cags move. I think it's more of they're moving Renfroe to set up helping the offense be better, so that when Cags comes up, he can hit 7, 8 in the lineup and not be stressed, and just be a guy who is asked to settle into his big league career. Because for as much as we applaud what Bobby Witt Jr. has done this year, last year, the year prior, when he was a rookie, yes, there were flashes, but the consistency is obviously not there. And so you're just hoping that when he does make his debut later this season, that the flashes are enough to help him be a productive player on a winning team. Because it's different playing on this Royals team than what Bobby was being asked to do on a team that had no consequences in 2022.
Yeah, the conversation around Caglione really intrigues me because I know a lot of Royals fans are just kind of they need to call him up tomorrow.
Yeah.
And just as you said, the Royals are fast tracking him about as fast as they could. I mean, he's playing at AAA faster than almost any draft pick in their entire system. I mean, they're like he's moving faster at a historic pace. But the thing is, the reason I think fans are having this conversation and they do feel this way is because you just see Jack Caglione and our eyes are not lying to us. I mean, just as you're talking about, we're talking about exit velocities that Giancarlo Stanton is hitting, that Shohei Ohtani is hitting. Like, these are the best power hitters in baseball, and for some of them, you could argue that those two guys, like Giancarlo Stanton especially, his baseball is harder than anyone in the history of the game of baseball, and Jack Caglione is doing that, and Royals fans are saying, like, hey, like, our offense is terrible, and we're going to have to see. But one thing that the Royals always bring up, listening to JJ Picollo, is they don't want Cags to come up to the big leagues and feel like he has got to be the fix. That is not pressure that they want to put on a rookie, so this is a very delicate balance because this is a player who might have the best hitting talent on the Royals in their entire organization, including Bobby Witt Jr. when it's all said and done. Like, Jack Caglione is that good at baseball, or at least appears to be so far, but they don't want him to feel like he has got to be the best player on the team when he's 22, 23 years old. But Gabe, I feel like we need to start talking about like Jack Caglione might not need a lot of time in the minors. Like, he might be the anomaly. I know the Royals are they're treating him like maybe he's like 99 players out of 100, but the thing is, Jack Caglione might be that one player out of 100. He is that good at baseball, and we're gonna have to wait and see. But I would be shocked if he is not on the big league roster by July 1st, because it's just this guy. They want to see what he does in AAA. They said they want to see what he did in AA when they brought him up or started him this year at AA. They said he had a little bit of a lull, but that lull was 3 to 4 games, and he got right back on track. So at AAA, we're going to have to see. Maybe the AAA, the scouting reports are a little bit deeper. As JJ Picollo was saying on Monday, talking about the call-up, was that in AAA, the pitchers, there's more game planning. They follow the game plan better. They can repeat deliveries much better than in AA, because at AAA, obviously, they're one step away from the big league. So if Cags does hit that little slump in AAA, I shouldn't say slump, maybe he has a 2-3 game lull and he comes out of it, I think at that point the Royals would be confident to bring him up to the big league roster, because that's a guy that's made an adjustment 2 times at that point if you were to do that at the minor league level. So we'll see what happens if he can get called up to the big leagues. Gabe, any thoughts?
They're definitely maximizing what they're asking of him in AAA. Like, he is, every single game that he's been there, he's hit third in the lineup. So they are attempting to get him the most amount of at-bats. And he's playing right field, which is where he's going to slot in if he comes up to Kansas City this fall, or later this summer, excuse me. Because with what the Royals have going on at first base with Salvi and Vinny, and Cavan Biggio can play it, Mark Canha can play it, they don't necessarily need him to be a first baseman as it stands, and if he can learn how to play the outfield, that is part of it. I think that if anything, it is more of just getting the reps, and you got to think of, in particular, we've seen what it looked like when Jonathan India was playing left field early on this season, and there's obviously going to be an acclimation period when you play in Kauffman and the defensive dimensions and all that kind of stuff. But we saw what it looked like early in the regular season with Jonathan India, even though he got reps in spring training playing the outfield. And so I think that what they're asking Cags to do in late stage of AA and now in AAA is get those right field reps, so that when he comes up to the MLB, he doesn't have to worry about just absolutely learning how to play defense in right field at the same time that he's trying to hit big league pitching. So it's a good plan, and we'll see how it goes.
No, I think that's a tremendous point, because I don't think that just the Royals, how they play organizationally, and especially how they play at the major league level, I don't think they're going to put anyone out there that's a defensive liability, and they also are not going to want to put someone out there where if they do maybe have some subpar defense where it creeps into their offense, just mentally affects them at the plate. They are not going to want that to happen here for a rookie. But Jack Caglione, things are happening. Special players do special things. Like they want to see what he does in AAA. Third game up there, he hits a 410-foot home run, 114 mile per hour off the bat. there was pressure on him. He succeeded.
Yep.
We'll see what continues to happen. All right, we have 3 more topics in about 15 minutes. We're going to try to get through these. But KU baseball is playing in the Big 12 tournament where they earned the 2 seed. They're having a sensational season. Head coach Dan Fitzgerald, in his 3rd year at the helm of the program, brought in a lot of JUCO guys, a lot of veteran guys, and he's flipped the program in 3 years. I think when he took over the program, they were dead last in the Big 12. Here they are, 2 seed at the Big 12 tournament. Gabe, last night they had their 26th comeback win of the season. I think they have 43 wins. We talked about this a little bit when Fitzgerald was named the Big 12 Coach of the Year, but just how special of a coaching job and turnaround of a program is this, especially in the modern era of college sports where teams can buy NIL. You can buy a good team if you want. KU didn't do that. KU built it a different way.
Yeah, I mean, it's not one of the most expensive rosters in college baseball. It is a lot of JUCO guys who have bought into the mentality of KU and what they wanted to do. And last night was kind of exactly what they've been for all season long. The pitching is decent. It's nothing special. They got down 6-2 and they battled their way back to win 7-6. And so they're never really out of it with how good the offense is. And I think that one of the worries when they were down in that game last night against Oklahoma State was, they're playing at Globe Life Park in Arlington, and that's a big ballpark. It's a big yard.
It's a big league ballpark
for college baseball. And so does being a power team and being a team that relies on offense, does that necessarily translate to that ballpark? Well, I don't necessarily think that it was their best game, but they escaped and were able to advance to the semifinals today, and so we'll see what it goes to. I did see today, baseballamerica.com, they do their 8 for Omaha pretty frequently, and they update kind of who the experts, who they think is trending in the right direction for getting to Omaha. And they had KU as one of the 8 teams that they think can get there based on the way that the bracket would shape up at this point, and that was even though they had KU still as a 2 seed, as a team that is not hosting a regional next weekend in Lawrence. And if they win tonight, if they win tomorrow, and they win the Big 12 tournament, I think there is a chance that you or Neil or Marlia, somebody's going up to Lawrence next weekend to cover some NCAA tournament games at Hoagland Ballpark, and we'll see what it looks like. We'll see if they're able to win the tournament, but this is as good of a chance as they have ever had to get to Omaha, and I'm thrilled to see what the outcome becomes, because it's a really fun team to watch. It is kind of the antithesis of what the Royals are in terms of every game being a 3-2 game. It feels like every single KU game is 10-9, 9-8, 7-6. It's something
8-5.
like that. Yeah, exactly.
No, they score. KU really does score a lot, and just as you're saying, KU is really hopeful to host an NCAA regional, which would be a crazy thing to say for the program. And just as Gabe said, they're really going to need a strong weekend here. They did earn the 2 seed in the Big 12, but they did finish the regular season with more wins than anybody in the Big 12. So I think if they were to win tonight in the semifinals against TCU and then win in the championship, I don't know how you could say that they weren't worthy of hosting an NCAA regional, and that would just be an incredible turnaround. But the big road bump, at least the first one, is going to be tonight against TCU. Well, last time KU played TCU, or the only time KU played TCU this season, they were swept and they were outscored 25-6. So for a team that's done a lot of comeback winning, they did not come back against TCU in that sweep. So they're gonna. But I will say the one thing about KU that I think is a big benefit for them this season is just kind of, as we were talking about, this is the team that with those 26 comeback wins, you had to think in that dugout they don't think that they're ever out of a game and that they could really that they're never out of it. They can come back and win.
Yep, they've got a chance every night.
All right, KU baseball, we'll see what happens there tonight. 7:30 first pitch down at Globe Life. And the other semifinal is top seed West Virginia, who KU just swept on the road in Morgantown, who's somehow the 1 seed over KU. Doesn't make sense. See what happened on the field. West Virginia's taking on Arizona, so we'll see what happens out in that one. Now, 2 more topics here to close, both with soccer. Sporting Kansas City returns home this weekend. They just played a span of 3 road games in 8 days where they traveled more than 5,000 miles. I think they went here to San Jose, back to here to Portland, back to St. Louis, and then back out to San Diego. So they were doing quite a bit of flying.
Great job, schedule makers.
Yeah, MLS schedule makers. We got to have a little bit of a conversation. That was a little jacked up. But they went 0-1-2 on that road trip, finishing it with 2 draws in a row. Hosted the New England Revolution on Saturday night out at Children's Mercy Park. But this is going to be a match that is played with a bunch of heavy hearts because one of Sporting KC, one of their former players passed away this week, Gotti Kinda, who is very close to a lot of guys on the team. I think there were 11 members of Sporting Kansas City who played with Gotti. And if anyone had ever watched Gotti Kinda play soccer, this dude was absolutely electric. This was a guy for Sporting Kansas City that he just saw things on the field that other players didn't see. Daniel Shalloway was actually talking about getting to play with Gotti, and he was saying that when he was with Gotti, he had an MVP caliber season. That what actually was it almost was getting me to tear up in the sports office when I was hearing this. But they were talking about when a couple days ago they were asking, like, kind of talking in the locker room about who are players that they would like to play with, or players that they've never played with they'd like to play with, our chance. And Daniel Shalloway was said, I said Gotti Kinda, and then a couple days later they got the news that Gotti had passed away. Gotti gave us a lot of good highlights here in Kansas City. What do you kind of think that this week has been like? And I know you saw some of their comments. What do you think of what they said after his
Eric
passing?
Tommy said that he felt like it was the toughest week of his career, and he's a guy who played, I think, just over a year with him. He arrived in 2022. Gotti Kinda was here from 2020 to 2023. The Shalloway comments kind of stuck out to me as well, with him being like, hey, the best season of my career was in large part not my own doing. It was playing with him, and he was just able to see things free me up, set me up to play incredibly well. I saw that the KC Cauldron said today that they will be honoring him tomorrow night at the match against the Revolution. I think it's a decent chance for Sporting to get a win, considering the caliber of opponent that New England is. But yeah, it's just something that clearly has touched plenty of people in the organization. That's the thing of despite the turnover this year of Peter Vermees and all of that kind of everything that's gone into that, there's been so much continuity in this organization for so long that so many of these guys were well aware of it. And Kerry Zavagnin said today that on Tuesday when the news came in, there were several guys who they were okay with, hey, we're not going to train today. We're just going to go home and process things. And he was okay with it. Everybody's had different ways to grasp the news and go through it. And Shallow even said, hey, everybody who's played with him, everybody who's played at Sporting and played with Gotti had set up a WhatsApp group chat, and they were sending texts, sending messages of encouragement before he passed away, and photos and memories and all those kinds of things. So I'm sure that's been going on all week long, and hopefully tomorrow night is a chance for them to play for him and have a chance to bring some joy back to the locker room.
Yeah, and it sounds like Sporting has several things planned for him. Shallow was talking about how a lot of the players were sending in photos and videos for a pregame moment of silence, and then a video that message that's going to be displayed. Sporting KC, definitely our thoughts and prayers go out to you guys, because Gotti Kinda, I mean, this was a guy looking up his team in Israel that he played as recently as March 29th, and then he was dealing with that complex medical issue that eventually did take his life. But so often I think we look at these athletes and we see them on the field, they seem larger than life, they seem like Superman, so tough, but just hearing some of those comments, like they found out that their friend, that their former coworker was in a tough spot, and it was just it was very touching to see how they just made a group chat and just started sending him all these well wishes, sending him the best videos, just times of them hanging out. I'm sure all of us can relate to that. You're just hanging out with your buddies and something happens, remember these good times, and that's exactly what these guys were doing. These guys are human beings, and they're dealing with something, and it was very cool to see how the team is handling this. Like Kerry Zavagnin did talk about how some of the guys didn't train on Tuesday just because the news was so hard, other guys needing a distraction. I think so much about what Kerry has done since he has taken over as the interim head coach is just try to get these guys in the right headspace to play, and that includes situations like this. And you're really, I had to tip my cap to Kerry Zavagnin, because this is a guy that's an interim head coach, and this is a situation that absolutely no one can plan on. Like, one of these guys, really good friends, someone that they're very close to, that they literally sweat equity built up with them passed away, and Kerry Zavagnin, they're applauding for how he's done this. So shout out to Sporting KC. Good luck to you guys on Saturday. Should be a good one out there at Children's Mercy Park. Last topic of conversation goes out to the KC Current. They are also on the road this week and going on the road to the Chicago Stars. This is a battle of worst versus first, with the Current being at the top of the table, Chicago being at the bottom. But I will say the last time the Current were in this situation, they went to North Carolina and lost. So, we do not underestimate any opponents here in Kansas City. We don't look over anybody. This is not a trap game. But KC Current, some injury news to talk about here. They lost defender Alana Cook for the season. She had a torn ACL, one of the team's top defenders, beloved in the community. I saw her at the mental health game up in Park Hill. She's very involved, very generous with her time. Hopefully she can get back 100%. Shout out to her, Alana Cook. You're awesome. Debinha, we got some news about her. She's going to be out for at least a couple of months. Actually, it sounded like Vlatko Andonovski was saying this is very close to a season-ending injury, and they don't really know how this is going to happen. So that's a situation that bears monitoring, because she's obviously one of the best players in the league. Also, Timwa Chawinga this week. She did not finish training. They're going to wait and see if she's going to be able to compete this week. But there is good news. Michelle Cooper, who is called up to the U.S. women's national team, one of the best players in the entire league, should see some minutes this week. So, Gabe, KC Current, top of the table, 7-0-2, taking on a last-place team. What's your big what do you want to see out of this game? Just get out of it healthy?
I mean, you would hope so, given how poor the trip to Orlando went in terms of health. I know that they were able to get the victory, but it obviously came at a cost. The Alana Cook injury is specifically devastating in the fact that it was torn ACL, torn MCL, and torn meniscus. So she kind of got about as poorly as you could go from a health standpoint. I think what makes the Current special is how deep the roster is, and so you can list off all of these different players who are dealing with injuries and dealing with issues and differing levels of recovery timelines, whether it's missing the entire season and coming back next season, whether it's missing most of this season and hopefully being able to come back for the postseason, or whether it's somebody who may be back next week or maybe back in 2 weeks. They're able to somewhat absorb it because there's so much talent on the roster. And as you mentioned, not a trap game, but it's certainly a road match that you would expect them to go on the road and take care of, and hopefully they're able to do that. But yeah, this for them being in first place, there has been a lot of adversity to get to this point. And so seeing as the season progresses how they're able to deal with that will be very interesting and something worth monitoring.
No, that's an excellent point. I mean, 7-0-2 at the top of the table, but they have dealt with a lot of stuff going on this year. One of the big questions that hopefully they're going to be able to answer tomorrow is, can they take the show on the road? We know they're dominant at CPKC Stadium. The offense comes alive. They did get that win on the road at Orlando, but again, here we go, another road test on the road at Chicago. So that's a good sports here on this Friday afternoon. One final note, the KC Mavericks are down 3-1, so tomorrow taking on the Toledo Walleye out there in Ohio, a must-win game to keep their season alive there in game 5 of the ECHL Western Conference Finals. I think that's it. Gabe, we got any other notes, or we're good?
Neil's out there at Banana Ball, so we'll see what he puts together tonight at 10. But he's out having fun at the K tonight.
Yeah, Neil Jones and the Savannah Bananas. That is a recipe for an absolutely insane story at 10 o'clock. You guys are going to want to see that. We'll have that coming up. But that's a look here at KC Sports Night on this Friday night. Have a good weekend, everybody, and we will see you on Saturday and Sunday night, 10:30, next Monday at 5:30. Take care, guys.